Zenobia Elite 6 tent from High Gear. It's a 6-person tent. Let's just go inside. I'm not going to go through everything because it's a pretty standard thing. It's a 2-podded tent. 3 people can fit in each pod, 2 for comfort. It's got good standard things. It's got a nice hook to hang your lantern. It's got some little Velcro things down the side, put various things in. On each side panel you've got a door and with a flap that can be put up, leaving a mesh. Both those can be rolled up. When the door's down, you can have the window panel up, and to the side of it you've got the window panel, and you can roll that up from the outside. There's a plastic sheet here and a mesh here. Normal kind of standard stuff. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail, just to say that it is a waterproof tent. We put this up in the pouring rain in Cornwall, and it survived that, and it had a night of rain, then a nice dry week followed by a day of rain, a night or 2 nights of rain, a day of rain, and we packed it up in the rain. No water came in. We've had to put it up in the garden to dry out, and that's why it's up now, and that's why, if you saw very briefly outside, the guy lines weren't up and taut. It's just up to dry. But I would just like, if you're looking at tents seriously, just like to make a couple of comments. The sleeping pods are great. There's the standard zip round thing. You can go in. I'm 6'3". I can stretch out on there and be comfortable. There's some little pockets each side. And sorry for juggling this around, but you've got this separate zip here, so the main panel can come out, leaving a mesh to keep insects out and the air circulating. I would just like to comment on one aspect of it which I think is quite lacking. Now, my wife and I were looking at tents over a couple of seasons, a bit half-heartedly, and we really wanted a tent like this with a continuous ground sheet all the way through. Some tents we saw, the ground sheet stopped at the edge of the pod, and then there was nothing, and so the ground sheet of the pod was on the grass, and we thought, oh crumbs, yeah, moisture coming in, insects, all the rest of it, we don't like that at all. And so we went for this continuous thing. Great, but the problem is there is a vent at the back of the sleeping pod. I don't know if that comes up too well. I thought that would be big enough. It obviously does let some air in. The trouble is, when you're sleeping, and we've had hot nights, we've had overcast nights, clear nights, we've had rainy nights, and each morning I woke up with some damp on the outside of my sleeping bag. So the condensation, the water vapour that you breathe out is condensing inside the tent, and you do get water on the inside of the sleeping pod that will drip down on the sleeping bag, and also a dampness. It's not like waking up and it's all wringing wet and going to get all mildewy, but it is a bit of a pain. You do feel like you want to air your sleeping bag outside every day, and of course if you had a number of nights running and damp days, that's going to build up. I think what would be fantastic, and High Gear, if you are listening to this, and I will write to you as well, the edge of this pod here, okay, you've got air circulation, great. Now, if this was mesh all the way along, and there was a band here coming down, and you clipped that or zipped that straight into this band, but then there was this gap with a mesh thing, so that air could circulate round, then you could have down the side the gaps for the air to sort of come through a bit more, or even put more air vents in. It does need more air circulation, more ventilation. Apart from that, it's been a good tent. The only other little gripe I would have is inside here on the wall, where the wall meets the carpet, you've got a bit of a slope. Now, I have jiggled and jiggled and jiggled with this. We put it up for a practice weekend and went off camping for there and found this to be an issue. We did a week's camping in Cornwall, and again it was an issue. I put it up in the garden to dry out, and that's when I really tried things left, right and centre, and all I can imagine is that these poles are just too long. and I've even gone back to the camping shop and seen this one up since then, and I've just got to say that these poles need to be shortened. Sorry, the camera work here. I mean, I've tried jiggling with this adjustable thing here. There's an adjustable thing here. I've tried placing the pole at different points, putting the peg in at different points. It just pulls off the ground. Sorry about that. It pulls off the ground too much. I don't think I've got that very good shot there. More so on the other side, and I think that and the ventilation issue are just the two big problems. But if you're camping for a week's holiday, and you know it's only going to be in the summertime most of the time, you can put up with a bit of damp that you can dry. It'll be a fine tent. We're a family of 4, 2 boys at one end, me and the wife at the other, and we're for 6 people, and it's a nice roomy inside. As I said, I'm 6'3", and I'm reaching up, and I've still got about a foot above my head, so I've got space to stand up. Let's try and pan out a bit. So yeah, not a bad tent, and with those modifications, or if you can put up with those things, it'll serve you well. Just one other thing I've noticed while I'm packing up, the tent pegs, sorry, the tent poles, a little bit of rust appearing around there. As I said, that was up for a week in Cornwall. We had about 3 nights of rain, 1 day of rain. It's been up drying at home. We've had rain pretty much every day for a week, so maybe a fortnight's worth of wet camping, and it's already got rust. Not a big issue, you'd think, but it might add up. Also, where the pole comes down and inserts into these little pegs, I'll just show you another one. When I put the first 2 times I put the tent up, there were the end was sort of filled in with a little hole, which meant it gave you stability and you could put this tent up on your own. When I put it up the 3rd time back home in the garden, these had come off. Don't know where they were, probably on the campsite somewhere, and it just meant that you thread it through the good loop system here and clip it in the other end. You then come around, try to put the pole up, and the thing pops out. So you just need another person, if only to just hold it in place. So a child could do that for you, but whereas I could do it completely on my own, now I need just another pair of hands to do that. And again, that's after 2 times of putting the tent up and taking it down that I noticed that I think pretty much all of these poles have now lost their end stopper with that little hole for that peg. So hasn't really stood up to a great deal of usage.